Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Honor to the Sublime One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. So I see a few names I'm not familiar with. Um, is there anybody who hasn't been to any of my events here at the Buddhist Center? I'm not exactly great with names, so. But I usually can tell who I know before because I friend request people. If your name is not the green, then you might be new. So okay, well, welcome. I'll give my introduction. My name is Jayantha, formerly known as Ferox here. Jayantha is my Pali name. I am a 34-year-old lay Buddhist disciple of the Theravada tradition. And being a lay Buddhist means that I'm not a monk or a master or guru or anything like that. Just a regular old Buddhist who is on his path and has been doing things here at the Buddhist Center for about 2 years. I do a couple different things, including a metta meditation on Thursdays. Sundays I have a Basics of Buddhism class and a Dhamma reading. And every Tuesday here we have a Dhamma Talk, or as I like to call it, more of a Dhamma discussion. If you're familiar with going to Dhamma Talks with monastics, or even famous lay teachers, you might know that usually the person talks for a half hour, an hour before, and then after that there's a question and answer period. With me, if you would like to pose a question or make a comment throughout the time I'm talking, feel free. You're not interrupting. Some of the best talks that we've had here on Tuesday night is when everybody participates and makes comments, asks questions. Never feel like you're interrupting. Because sometimes I even bore myself sitting here yapping on for 40 minutes. Sometimes I think, oh, I'm saying some pretty good stuff. So, what will it be tonight? I don't know. All things are uncertain, right? So, I have done this talk in the past, but in the deep past, but considering my current situation and recent situation, I wanted to do a talk on how to deal with being sick or injured, or in any other way in your body, in your mind, that you don't want to be, that you have an aversion to. And in short, those of you who have heard me talk, you pretty much know what my answer is. My answer is always that no matter what situation occurs, you can always observe it and gain insight from it. So that's pretty much my blanket answer for everything. Embrace the suck. Yes. Is actually doing. Did I talk about embracing the suck? Or do you know me? or do you know me on Facebook? No, I don't know. Just came to me. So cutting in and out. Okay. Usually, is it cutting in and out for everybody else too? Okay. Well, sometimes that happens, and I usually do a little reset. But J-Rock, if it doesn't get any better, okay. I haven't seen that, but I don't know. Is it better for you? Maybe it was just some kind of a spike. I don't know. So I've talked to, after being sick, like with the flu or with a cold. I've talked about this in the past, but I do these things. Those of you who know me, you've heard me talk enough. You know that at one point I was almost 400 pounds. I had weight loss surgery 200 years ago. Yes, I'm a Highlander. I had weight loss surgery just about over 2 years ago. And since then, I do all kinds of crazy stuff, like mud runs and all these things. And I do this thing called now the Go Ruck Challenge. And basically, the easiest way to explain it is a 13-hour overnight special forces training thing team. So basically, what you do is you do crazy stuff for 13 hours, training like a special forces guy in the military. It pushes you beyond your limits physically and mentally. It's actually interesting enough. This is for another talk. I've never had the experience of almost being completely in the present moment for 12 hours straight because you're forced to be. But that's a whole talk for another time. So anyway, I got some injuries, some infections and cuts and stuff like that, and I've been, for the last week and a half, limping around, bandaging, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and not feeling pretty much myself. And I think that we all can understand, and we all see to a certain extent how we react when our body is sick, when our body is not working the way it quote unquote should be. And all you have to do is go to the pharmacy, or go to a Rite Aid or a CVS or whatever place that has a pharmacy, and you'll see a whole row of, do you have this problem? Well, this medication will solve it. What is that? Do we know what that is? That's trying to escape our aversion, right? We know there's no such thing as a cure for the common cold. There is no medication that you can take that will cure the cold. However, when we have a cold, when we have sniffles, the first thing that we think about is running to get something. Running, because you know what? We don't like it, right? We don't like having a cold. We don't like having the flu. We don't like having injury. We don't like dealing with these things because we're supposed to be doing other things. We're supposed to continue on with our lives. And now this annoyance of the body has come and has become part of our experience. And of course, how we deal with that experience is what? How we deal with an experience, no matter what kind of experience it is karma or karma, depending on how you want to say it. So, what is the best way to deal with these kind of issues that come up? I like to use, when I talk about the sickness stuff, I like to use a quote from Ajahn Brahm, because Ajahn Brahm is great for these kind of things. And he says, when you're sick, and you go to the doctor, don't say there's something wrong with me. Say there's something right with me. Yes. And where he gets that from is actually directly from the Buddha himself. When you're saying there's something right with me, what you're saying is this is normal, this is natural, this occurs. I have this body, so therefore I will have old age, sickness, and death. It's simple as that. Because I have this body, if I do crazy physical stuff, I might hurt this body. Because I have this body, just because I'm existing, I'm prone to being sick. A whole varying degree levels of being sick. And so therefore, when you get sick or when you get injured, there is nothing wrong with you, because that is the normal cause and effect causes and conditions of having this body. But because of our greed, hatred, and our delusion, right? And the core of greed is, of course, craving, attachment. We want something. We like it. We want it more. The core of hatred or anger is aversion. We don't want to be near this person, place, or thing. We want to be away from it. We want to run away from it. And we have this attachment and aversion because of our ignorance of the reality of things. And the reality of things is that the body gets sick, that the body gets hurt, that the body dies. But we want to avoid that reality at all cost. When we get old, we spend money on all kinds of ways to make ourselves look young again. Coloring our hair, getting rid of wrinkles, all these kind of things that we're trying to escape. We're trying to somehow, some way escape old age. And the same thing can be said for the sickness. We might try all kinds of quackeries and all kinds of weird things that, this will cure this, or this will keep you from doing that, from getting this. And it may, and it may not. But the key is not to try to avoid the sickness from happening. The key is to accept it and embrace it. And one of the, as Evil pointed out, ironically, one of the sayings in this Go-Ruck thing that comes from the military is embrace the suck. Which means life sucks, right? There's parts of life that suck. You know what? Guess what? That's actually the first noble truth that the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago. That's the noble truth of dukkha. So, of course, yes, there is sucking. There is horrible things. There's things that we don't want to deal with in life. That is the noble truth of the first noble truth. But what do? Instead of running away from it. So, where did I leave off? I was leaving off, we were talking about aversion. And we were talking about what our natural inclination is to run away. When we're sick, we don't want to be sick. But guess what? We can't take off this body and put on a new one, right? We're stuck with it. So we have a choice. We always have a choice. Always. We can make the best of it. We can embrace the suck, as they say. Or you can try to run away from it. And the more you practice, meditation, the more you practice the path, the more you realize that running away from it just makes it worse. You can see this at a higher level in terms of doing drugs, taking alcohol, playing video games, whatever you try to use as an escape in life. It never truly allows you to escape. It just takes your mind off of it for a little bit. And once you're done doing whatever, once you're done finishing up that, the last marijuana bud or the last alcohol, or you hit level 50 in the video game, when that's over, you're still stuck. You're stuck with that thing, whatever it is that you're trying to avoid. So, as always, what we can do is strive to be aware and to observe your sickness. Whatever is occurring. Now, this is not something that, you're just going to sit down, you're going to have the flu tomorrow, you're going to sit down and you're going to meditate through the flu. Most of us probably can't sit for 10 minutes when we're perfectly healthy and meditate. So it takes a lot of practice. It's not something that you're gonna do overnight. But I will say one thing. If when you are sick, you have the inclination in your mind and the effort to even just do it for a minute, then you know you're going somewhere. You know you're on the right track. And the more you practice, the more it becomes autopilot. You don't even have to think about it. I'm going through this situation, and this is how I'm going to handle it. This is the choices that I'm going to make. Because you have the choice. People don't realize how much power they really have. First line of the Dhammapada is mind creates world. Mind is their maker. Mind is their master. You don't realize how much power you have with the ability to create with your mind. Yes. You have the ability. With practice. Again, this is not something that happens overnight. But it's something that gradually, as you practice, you start to see, wow, this stuff works. And the more you practice, I do not consider myself an advanced meditator, by any stretch of the means. But I've done it enough and long enough with enough success to see that all I need to do is just keep practicing, and I know the insights will come. I know more peace will come because I've seen it happen already. I see that it gradually comes. And to me, I have complete confidence and faith that this practice is extremely beneficial to my life and to the lives of others. So for me, I don't worry about that stuff. But in the beginning, I had all kinds of doubts and questions and issues, and I started meditating many years ago, and I felt I didn't have the right guidance, and found the right teachers. And I'm not talking about even in real life. I'm talking about online too, on the internet, that allowed me to start to blossom in my practice that I had in the last couple of years. That changed my mind, changed the way I viewed things. Ajahn Chah, who's the teacher of Ajahn Brahm, if you're familiar with Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Chah's been dead for about 20 years now, so he's not very well known unless you know about the Thai forest tradition. But this was one of his main teachings, was when he was sick, he was just there with the sickness. And the Buddha did the same thing. We don't often think about that the Buddha was an 85-year-old man. He had terrible back pains. He had all kinds of pains. What do you think, that you become enlightened and then you don't have any pains anymore? Even enlightened beings that still have a body, the body still has pains. The body still has issues. What changed is the mind. So don't be sitting down in your meditation thinking, I'm going to be enlightened and I won't have to worry about pains and sicknesses anymore. No. You still have a body. So therefore you are still subject to old age, sickness, and death. Now, once that body is done, then you're not reborn anymore, so then you don't have a body to have to worry about. But when you're still in that body, you're still dealing with it. And we are, there you go. You might actually find that when you're sick, it's almost a little bit easier to concentrate on being able to just be there and be aware, because your mind is monkey minding less. Your mind is oftentimes less going all over the place, thinking about this, thinking about that. I'm homesick today. I'm just going to rest. So your mind is actually, in a lot of ways, a little bit better off, or a little more ready to be aware of that. And I will say that what really taught me about this practice was not necessarily meditating or observing when I was sick, but when I started going to meditation retreats and I started having to do 6-7 hours of meditation a day, and I started to have all kinds of pains and issues and negativity that came up and all of this stuff, and working through that with my practice, that has actually helped me to really have the insight to know that no matter what comes up, the best thing for you to do is to be kind to your mind, be kind to your body, observe it, and not let yourself be carried away with the various emotions and various thought processes that occur because this thing is happening with your body. Now, that's not to say that your mind is not automatically going to do that in the beginning. It will. But what you need to do is to just observe that. You want to, as much as possible in meditation, whether you're observing the breath or in Vipassana and insight meditation, whatever comes up, you want to try to observe it as objectively as possible, without added thoughts, without added emotions. But you will do that. So what you do is you switch your focus to those thoughts and emotions. You just observe those. You can observe all the different levels going further back and further back into the recesses of your mind. Now, meditation masters and monastics talk about being able to go back and to kind of see thoughts as they arise through the subconscious. I'm not that far yet. I can't say that I can observe it through the subconscious, but I can observe it probably about 5 or 6, 7 levels back. And you can start to see, the deeper you get into it, the deeper levels of where it came from, the thought processes and the jumping. This led to this, 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 led to this thought. And that's the amazing part of this meditation practice. This is what you start to see gradually over time. So when you have, like, I have to wear gauzes and wrap it, I've been wearing this stuff for about a week, and in the beginning going to work, I never missed a day of work, but in the first couple of days I literally could barely move. I would just put one foot in front of the other. That's how I moved. It was very, very, very slow. Even now I still have a little bit of a limp. But what you can do is you can be mad about that. You can, Joe, you're so stupid. Why did you do that? Why did you do this thing that caused this issue with your body? Or you can love it and say, wow, that was fun. Even though I had this issue happen, that's fine. It's okay. Even though I went to see this person, and even though they got me sick, it's okay. Even though this happened or that happened, it's okay. It's just the nature of the way things are. And because it's the nature of the way things are, there's no use getting mad about it. There's no use trying to run away from it. Because no matter where you go, it's like in the dream, right? If you have one of those dreams that somebody's chasing you, and no matter how hard you try to run, they're always right behind you. No matter what you try to do, they're always there. It will always be there. You can't escape it. So the only thing you can do, that actually kind of brings me back to the what was it, about 3 weeks ago? I had the simile of the turtle in the fishbowl, the turtle trying to get out, and the turtle's never gonna scale a straight glass plate to get out of that fishbowl, but he keeps trying and he keeps trying and he keeps trying and he keeps trying. We can be like that turtle when we're sick and try to avoid it with medication and all kinds of things. Or we can sit and be with the sickness. And you'll see, it's amazing. And I found this when it comes to pain, but it also works for sickness too. It's amazing how much extra suffering the mind can add to something that is a physical ailment. It's absolutely amazing. Because when you can have something, and the reason why I say this is because I can see this now with my own experience, and I can see it when a pain comes or something like that comes. For the first split second, it feels overwhelming, and it feels, this is pain. But I've trained my mind enough to the point where after a second or 2 seconds or however long it takes, it clicks in, and I just start to observe it. And all of a sudden, the pain is there, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was when my mind was flowing all over the place, trying to avoid it and being affected by it. So you'll find that if you're sick, the less negativity you pour into that, the more you are just there with it, the less it'll affect you, the better you'll feel. It's weird, but that's the way it is. Now, when I talk about this kind of stuff, obviously, if you have a major illness, I'm not advocating that you should, if you have cancer, that I'm not going to take chemo or anything. I'm just going to sit and meditate. That I'm not advocating that. But there's still a place for modern medicine, so don't go too nuts with that. But even with that, no matter what the sickness, no matter what the illness, with medications or without medications, you can still observe, you can still try to be at peace with it, and you can still make your life better and the people around you better. When people are dealing with a sick person, how that when they're caregivers, how that sick person handles the situation makes a big difference to their caregivers. It makes the caregivers feel a little bit better. It makes the caregivers less anxious. So you've seen that with your own experience as well, Luna. It definitely occurs. You're probably going to if you haven't experienced that yet, you're probably going to have to go through a lot of pain. A lot of pain first. Like a 7-day meditation retreat where you're meditating 6 to 7 hours a day. That's still probably one of the most painful things I ever did, that first meditation retreat. But the funny thing is, the more you do it, the more your body gets strong, and parts that we're not used to being strong, and the easier it gets. But so I suppose I yapped on for long enough, so we can have our comments and questions. What's this Breathworks book about? Who's that by, Luna? Yeah, experiencing, being with the pain is not an easy thing. You know, depending on the level of pain, even advanced meditators, it still can affect you, you know. The more insight you have, the less issues, the less the pain will mentally bother you. The Buddha talked about the two arrows, right? There is the physical arrow. The physical arrow you cannot stop. The physical arrow you cannot deflect or get rid of in any way. The physical arrow is that physical suffering, that physical pain. The mental arrow you can stop. You can grab it in midair or block it with a shield or whatever. You can stop that mental arrow from hitting. So the Buddha says, you're already getting hit by one arrow. Why would you want to get hit with a second one? Stop that second arrow. Because that second arrow is the mental anguish, the mental addition to that physical pain. That doesn't need to be there. You don't need to have mental suffering because of physical suffering. Now, you can look at that and you can say, well, that's nice. How the heck do you do that? and you know, in my limited experience, the only thing I can say is I believe that the way you do it is practice. I can't say that I've totally eradicated the mental arrow either. You know, probably not for a long shot, but I've seen that you can deflect it a little bit more each time, and it makes it a little bit easier each time. No, it isn't, is it? It's just pain. Because pain exists in the body because of various causes and conditions. It's simple. I see, this is an interesting organization. Breathworks in Manchester. I don't think so. I think I'm talking. This is all hard. There's nothing I said today is easy. Believe me, I know. There's nothing easy about the practice. If there was, everybody would be doing it. If there was, Buddhism wouldn't be the fourth largest religion behind atheism and agnosticism. Agnostics. You know. That's just the way it is. But the thing that allows you to develop the drive and the effort to want to practice is seeing that it works little by little. And nobody can show you that it works. You know, you can see an advanced meditator or a master or monk or whatever. You're gonna say, "Wow, yeah, that's amazing. They've done something." And then you go home and, you know, it's not part of your experience, so you have nothing. You don't know anything about it, and you're like, "Yeah, that's nice. Good for them." And then you just move on with your life. But if you're able to start to have those experiences on your own, through your own experience, then you start to think, "There's something to this. This works." And you start to see it little by little. so you can get to the point where when you're sick, when you're bandaging, when you're doing all kinds of stuff, you can think positive. Like me, when I'm putting gauzes on and putting this burn cream that's an antibacterial, doing all this crazy stuff. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is pretty cool. Because I took a first aid course like 2 years ago, and I never get to use my first aid skills. I probably have to take the course all over again. But now I'm doing cool stuff like bandaging and wrapping and doing all this fun stuff that I don't normally get to do. But now I do. I always was a little nutty in that regard. I kind of like the first aid stuff. I always thought that was a pretty neat thing to do, and definitely a very important skill to have, without a doubt. But it's funny. I saw my doctor the other day, and I told him, I said, Doc, I see you more now than I did when I was 373 pounds. That's because I'm fit, and I do all kinds of crazy stuff, and I hurt myself, and I get, and I get frostbite kind of stuff in the winter, and being nutty, but that's just the way it is. That's the mind being crazy. Sometimes I did a talk about 2 months ago called Ego, Thou Art Crazy. My ego cracks me up. All the stuff that it wants me to do. I just sometimes I just sit back and I laugh at it. And when you see that, when you start to see your ego is separate from you, that there is no you, you start to say, wow, yeah, this thing is kind of funny. What this crazy mind wants to do. 34-year-old parkour, going out and doing parkour with 18-year-olds and doing all kinds of silly things. But you know what? It's fun. And I'm basically doing now at this age what I couldn't do the last 15 years. And of course that leads to getting hurt, because I should have did it 15 years ago and not when I'm almost 40. That's the way it is. But speaking of positive mindsets, there's a video, and it's called Never Leave the Playground, and it's about this 95-year-old guy who, you see him doing all these things like balancing on ropes and doing all this stuff, and he says, he never left the playground. He always still loves to do all these things. And you just watch this guy doing all this kind of like amazing stuff that like 30 and 40-year-olds can't do today. And I think that's a great mindset, right? That is the mindset of accepting your body, and not necessarily accepting your age, and just going out and being healthy and having fun, and being kind to your body and your mind, and being peaceful. To me, that's the way to be. Yep, exactly. Who wouldn't want to be 90 and being able to do all that stuff? That's what I say. And when this guy gets sick, what do you think he does? You think he gets all depressed and angry? I don't think so. I think this guy, you can tell by this guy's mindset, he probably has fun with it. Thank you, Rudy. Kittens. Kittens have claws, and they like to claw things. So, I guess if we have any comments, questions regarding the topic, dealing with being sick, or dealing with our aversions, because really at the core is not being sick. At the core of this talk, at the core of this issue, is dealing with our aversions, not the specifics. See, that we always want to go deeper. Always want to go deeper. And if you go deep enough, you'll see that 99% of our problems are caused by either our attachment or our aversion. That's the way it is. That's why it's called the three roots: greed, hatred, and delusion, or attachment, aversion, and ignorance. They're called the three roots because unless we are enlightened, all of our decisions come out of those three. Well, not necessarily all of them. We can perform actions of body, speech, or mind that are the reverse of that. The reverse of greed is generosity. Instead of grasping, we give away. The reverse of anger and aversion is metta, loving kindness. And of course, the reverse of ignorance is wisdom. So we can perform actions that are the reverse of these if we are mindful enough to be able to do that. Now let me see. What about helping others who are sick? In what way? I will say one thing. If you are a caregiver, the most important skill, and I was a caregiver. I was a caregiver to my wife over 3 years while she battled cancer. She's been dead now for about 7 years. So I have experienced this as a caregiver. If you're taking care of somebody who's sick, the most important thing is the skill of being able to know when you're needed and when you're not. Somebody who's very anxious, who has they're very compassionate, they have a good heart, they mean well, but they don't have the wisdom to understand that they're not needed at this point, or they're making the situation worse. You could be sick and you wish that you died because of this crazy caregiver. What are you doing to me here? Now, you have to be able to know when is the right time to care and when is the right time to just let the person be. That is one of the most important skills of being a caregiver, because a caregiver has the ability to make things worse, just as they have the ability to make things better. The way for a Buddhist to approach it, I think, is at least from my experience, exactly what I said. Being aware, being in the moment. When you are in the moment, when your mind is not in the present or in the future, or in the past or the future, when you're mindful of the present moment, you know exactly what the right thing is to do. And you know when is the right time to act and when is the right time to let it be. So that is the Buddhist way approach to caregiving. That's pretty much the Buddhist approach to everything, but specifically to caregiving. Three people typing. Let's see who gets done first. It's a race. That's why I like these chat bubbles, because you can see. I don't usually use the chat box per se. I like the chat bubbles. I think that comes from being an old-time gamer. And back in the day, on the online games, I used to have the bubbles over the people's head when they talked. A caregiver coming in a bad mood. Oof. That's just as bad as, the caregiver not doing something when they shouldn't. That could harm the person. That's not good. Caregiver coming in a bad mood. So I think that's, again, that's something that they need to realize, that they can affect that other person, the person that they're trying to care for. So that sounds like it's a good thing. Yeah. Ah. Now, if we were all bodhisattvas or Buddhas, the bad caregiver, it wouldn't make a difference. But because we're not, yeah, I think that's a appropriate thing. Because you're trying to get better, you're trying to take care of yourself, and the caregiver arrow. Yes, don't let that caregiver arrow get to you. So we have a couple minutes left, so we can finish off any last questions and then move towards the end. Do you know what the greatest gift is? At least to the Buddha. The greatest gift. If you become a monk, it is the greatest gift you can give to your parents, to your relatives. Nope, that's not the greatest gift. Not criticizing, although that's part of it. The Buddha says that the greatest gift is the gift of Dhamma, or Dharma, however you want to say it. So coming here together with fellow Dhamma friends, Dhamma brothers and sisters, to listen to some Dhamma and to discuss, to gain a little bit of insight, a little bit of desire to put forth effort into our practice. That is the greatest gift. So I'm happy that this has helped you out tonight, Luna. And everybody else. Sometimes I look at the little chat things and I'm like, I wonder what they're typing. And I also wonder if they're going to stop typing, because they fool me that way all the time. I'm waiting, I'm being silent, and then the chat thing ends and nothing comes. What did they say? What to do what, Binna? The thought bubbles. Now, Evil has been typing for some time, and I wonder, is she still typing, or did she forget that she was typing? Oh, they. It's amazing the silly little things that you can take enjoyment over when less and less bothers you in life. Like Second Life chat boxes. Okay. So I think we can end here for the night.